In this video, we're going to learn how to find the circumference of a circle. So remember, circumference is that outer edge, like a hula hoop. So we've discussed in class how the circumference of a circle has this very special relationship to the diameter. And as this picture is trying to show, that if you were to sort of unwrap the circumference of a circle, it always comes out to be the same ratio to the diameter. So in this image, we have a diameter here of exactly 2 there. And then the circumference, as it's rolling out, if we were to picture it rolling out the rest of the way, you can see it's going to come out to be a little bit more than 6 there, if you were to roll that piece out. And that's because the circumference of a circle is always equal to the diameter times pi. And since the diameter of this circle is 2 and pi is a little bit more than 3, then the circumference would be a little bit more than 6, because 2 times 3 will give you 6. Now sometimes it's useful to also be able to do this in terms of radius. And since we know that the radius of a circle is half of that circle, right? Then we can also think about circumference as being double the radius, 2 times the radius, because that would give you the diameter, and then that amount times pi. All right, make sure you have those formulas written down as well as written out in words so that you don't forget them later. If your image of the circumference of the circle isn't great, don't worry about it. I'm not too worried about that part. I do want us to talk a little bit about what pi is, though. So one approximation of pi is that it is roughly 22/7, about. But that is not exact. A better approximation is to say that pi is 3.14159, and then it just keeps on going and going and going. I'm going to put some dots there to show that it keeps on going. Because pi, which is written out in letters as pi, is what's called an irrational number, meaning that it can't be written exactly as a fraction. So 22/7 is close, but it's not exact. It also means that the decimal continues infinitely without having any sort of pattern that can be repeated. That means that in order to find the next digit of pi, if you didn't have the list in front of you, you would have to do the math to find the next digit. You couldn't just figure out what it was based on the one that had come before. In this class, we are generally going to use 3.14 as our approximation of pi. Once again, that's an about, that is not exact. In order to get it exact, you would have that infinite number of decimal places, so that's impossible. But we'll just use 3.14 to make our lives a little bit easier. All right, so let's go ahead and use out our formula to see if we can come up with an approximate circumference of each circle. If you think you know what to do, pause and do it now. So for the first one, it's given us the diameter, so we should use the formula circumference equals diameter times pi, which is 4.3 times about 3.14. So I got that the circumference was about 13.402, but since my original measurement was only 4.3, then I'm going to round it so that it only has one decimal place. So I'm going to say circumference equals 13.4, so that I only have one digit of accuracy, because that feels reasonable to me. So circumference is about 13.4 meters. On the next one, we were given the radius. So if I want to use the first formula, then I would use 10 for my diameter because it's double, or I could do circumference equals 2 times r times pi. So that means that the circumference is about 31.4 centimeters. One of the trickiest parts about these is remembering whether you need to multiply by 2 first before you multiply by pi. So remember, you just always want the diameter times pi. So if you're given the radius, you have to multiply it by 2 first. What about if we wanted to work backwards? So let's say the circumference of the circle is 11 centimeters. What would the diameter be? See if you can figure it out. Did you decide to try and work backwards? Let's see what that looks like. So I'll start with my formula. And this time I was given circumference. So 11 equals diameter times, and then I'll use 3.14 again. And I'm trying to find that diameter. So working backwards, it makes sense that I should divide 11 divided by 3.14. And this is a good little review on how to divide decimals. So I don't want to divide by 3.14. I want to divide by 314, which means I move the decimal place twice. Put it up there and put zeros in those spots. So now I want to know, how many times does 314 go into 1,100? I'll make my list of 314s. So there's my first 5. So I can see 314 goes in 3 times, which gives me 942. And 314 goes into 1,585 times. And they just asked me to go to the 10th, so I'm going to stop there because that came really, really close. So, well, I guess I could do the next step just to finish it up. 1570, that's going to give me 10, and it's not going to go into 100, so I'll need to bring down another 0. So it'll be a 0 there. So we'll say that the diameter is approximately 3.5 centimeters. All right, time for our practice problem. What is the circumference of the circle? Make sure to show all of your work.